What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be introducing you to Streamer.Bot. I'm going to be showing you how to download it, how to set it up. We're also going to show you how to set up OBS in portable mode and link those two together. On top of that, we are going to link your Streamer.Bot to your streaming platforms like Twitch, Kick, Trovo, YouTube. Me primarily as a Twitch streamer. We're going to dive deeper into the Twitch side, but you can take all the information that you learn from the Twitch side and apply it to all the other platforms as well. So let's go ahead and dive on in. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to Streamer.Bot. This is going to be the central hub for Streamer.Bot. This is where you can get your downloads, you can access documents, you can create your own account, you can do all the things that you need to do before actually diving into Streamer.Bot. I would advise in the top right corner that you would click sign in. Once you're signed in, you'll notice that your name populates up here as well as your little icon if you have your Discord already set up and linked to it. And then on the main page, you'll see a download now. We're going to go ahead and click that, and it's going to take you to a page where you can access the current version of Streamer.Bot as well as previous versions. On this page, not only do you see Streamer.Bot, but you'll also see another application called Speaker.Bot. This is going to be another video that we make down the road in the series, so make sure to subscribe if you want to get notified when that comes out. But for now, we're going to focus on Streamer.Bot, so go ahead and click download. It'll prompt you to download, put it wherever you may remember. I'm just going to put it to my downloads folder. Once you have that, go ahead and check it out in the folder. Make sure you go ahead and extract that wherever you may want to extract it to. I'm going to extract it here in the downloads folder, but I advise you doing it onto your desktop or some sort of like storage area where you can easily go back and access it. Now keep in mind, Streamer.Bot is not an application that you're going to have to install. Once you have the folder extracted, you'll have access to the executable, which will allow you to run it without installation. You will notice when you go into that folder that you extracted that there's going to be a bunch of this stuff in here. For now, we're just going to focus on the application executable, which is going to be further down the list, depending on how you have it sorted. Double click on it. Once you have Streamer.Bot open, you'll get to your landing page. This landing page is going to tell you all the things that you need to know about your current version. So on the top left, you'll notice it says Streamer.Bot version 1.0.1. That's always going to be updated to the current version that this application is set to. You'll have your actions, commands, platforms, and stream apps. These are your 4 primary categories that you're going to be spending the most time in, especially the actions panel. We're going to get to that later on in this video. But I also want to just go over the section for support. So just like the website, it links you to their documentation. So when you click on this, it'll take you to a wonderful page that breaks down all of the introduction, the starter guide, all that stuff for Streamer.Bot. So if you need to reference anything, you can go to this website and find all the things you need. Now they also have a Discord. Streamer.Bot is currently undergoing a process of migrating from an old UI to a new UI, so some of the documentation may be a little bit dated, but it should still get the point across. And if not, the community is really, really awesome and they don't gatekeep, so feel free to jump into their Discord. I highly advise going in there. You can find all kinds of cool assets and all kinds of great people that are willing to help you on the fly. You also have an ideas and suggestions page. When you click on this, you'll be taken to a page where you're going to be required to be signed into your Streamer.Bot account. This is why I advise you to set one up, just so that you can be involved with stuff like this, where you can go in, you can suggest things, as well as you can upvote other people's suggestions, and you can also find your way to Streamer.Bot extensions. Streamer.Bot is a free application that you can use at your disposal. You do not have to pay anything. There are some paid features like cloud saves and stuff that you can access, but it is not going to hinder you in what you can do with Streamer.Bot. It's just going to more so open up more easily accessible options for it. There is a Patreon setup where you can pay to keep the bot running and help keep supporting Streamer.Bot so that we can keep it live for a long time. If you have the funds and the means at your disposal, please do consider helping out Nate and keeping this platform alive. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the application just to give you a familiarity of how to navigate around the application, but we're not going to break down everything in this video. We're going to stick to the basics. So upon landing, you have your home screen. Then underneath that, you're going to have a viewers tab. This viewers tab is going to basically show you all the viewers that are present in your channels that you have currently linked to your Streamer.Bot. As of right now, this is a fresh installation, so we have nothing populated here. I personally don't use this tab all that much, but it can be useful for some of you guys out there when you dive further into the advanced features of Streamer.Bot. Now, the next one is going to be your bread and butter of this entire application, which is the actions and queues. This is where you're going to spend most of your time, specifically in the actions tab. In this actions tab, you're going to notice 3 different sections. You have your actions, you have your triggers, and your sub actions. Actions are going to be basically the essential, the foundation, the molecule that builds your entire factory of automation. Actions can be anything from commands to timers to queuings to all kinds of other things that you can do. Triggers are going to be within each action. So they're going to be how you actually trigger these to happen, whether it's something automatic or it's something that just happens off of a manual trigger. So this will be stuff like commands, keywords, time intervals, and random events that may happen like scene switches and title updates. Then you have your sub actions. Your sub action is going to be how the bot responds to what is triggering it. So when you make a command here in the triggers, you will have a sub action of a message of some sort or some sort of actions that respond to the triggers that you have set up. We're not going to dive deep into this just yet. We're going to make sure to give you the quick tour, and then we'll circle back and show you how to make a command later on in this video. Now, your queues tab is just basically going to be where you can create your queues. We're not going to dive into this again, another video down the road, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can get notified for that, or hop into the Discord and ask away. We have the pending actions. This is basically where all the actions that are queued up are going to pile up so you can control them, you can clear them, and do all the things there. And then last but not least in this section, you have the action history. The action history is going to be your best friend when trying to test actions and such, and also trying to see when things are working and when things are not. Action history is a great resource for you to use when trying to discover new variables and other things once we get further into the advanced stuff with Streamer.Bot. Now, the next section you have is commands. This is where you're going to be able to manually control all of your commands. Again, all of these fields are going to be empty because this is a fresh install, so we have nothing set up quite yet, but this is where you'll be able to edit your commands as well as create new ones if you want. Now, moving on to the next section is going to be platforms. Platforms is where you're going to be able to link your accounts. This is where I would advise that you go in and link the accounts that you're going to be streaming on. So for example, I personally stream on Twitch. So if I click on Twitch here, you'll notice all these other things that we're not going to dive into on this video, but we're going to focus on the broadcaster and bot account. This is going to apply to all of the sections, including YouTube. The only difference with YouTube is that you have to agree to those terms here, the privacy policy. Once you agree, you'll notice the same thing, broadcaster account, bot account. Then you go to Trovo, broadcaster account, bot account, and I'll let you guess, on Kick 2, you have your broadcaster account and bot account. With these broadcaster accounts, this is going to be your primary account. It's going to be the account that you're streaming from. Now, your bot account is going to be a secondary account, an account that you want to have as a responder to all of your commands and such. So for me, I personally have a Vybe bot that pops up in chat. So when people use commands, it's not DigiVybe responding, it's Vybe bot that responds with the links and all of the random shenanigans. So you simply just click login and it'll prompt you for logging in on your default browser. I personally already have Twitch signed in on my browser, so it automatically just asks me to authorize. I click authorize and I am now linked with my DigiVybe account here. So for setting up a bot account, it's a little tricky if you don't have like Google Chrome where you can have separate profiles. For me, I have a profile for my primary account as well as a profile for my secondary account. So what I do is I have my primary account signed in, opened up on my web browser. I click login, it logs me in as my primary. Then I go to Google Chrome, I close out of that and I open up my secondary profile for my secondary account. And then I come back to Streamer.Bot and click login, and that will prompt me to log in under the secondary account on that profile. For this video, we're not going to mess with bot accounts, but that is an option down the road. And I'll show you where you can actually apply that if you do end up setting up a bot account. Just make sure these are two different accounts and not the same account. And if you do accidentally link the same account, you can click log out. And then if you click down and collapse this, you'll see the word forget. When you click forget, it'll allow you to reassign the account so that it's not bound to that one that you accidentally set up. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on setting up this account and linking it, but this would be the same steps that you do for like YouTube, Trovo, and Kick. I personally don't have a Trovo and I don't really utilize Kick, but I do have a YouTube, so I'm going to go ahead and sign in with Google on my YouTube. Once you do that, it should populate here on the left side and you are good to go. Same thing applies with your bot account. Have those secondary profiles set up and ready to go. Now that you have your platforms that you currently stream on linked, you should be able to start building stuff off of those platforms. We're going to continue down this list of navigation just to show you the rest of the application. So moving on from platforms, we're going on to Stream Apps. Stream Apps is where we're going to be setting up OBS, Streamlabs, Meld Studio, or Polyplop. I personally am an OBS guy. I don't really use the other ones. When I first started streaming, I used Streamlabs because it was very pretty UI, but it's just not as manageable and doesn't have as many extensions that I prefer to use. So I've moved on to OBS, but I've heard good things about Meld, and I don't know a single thing about Polyplop. I'm not going to lie to you. But we're going to come back to this one because I'm going to show you guys how to download OBS, and I'm going to show you how we can actually turn OBS into a portable thing so that we can take these applications and we can store them on a drive so that they're accessible on any system that I put them on. Now we're just going to leave the Stream Apps alone, and we're going to go down to integrations. Integrations is really cool because you can start integrating other different aspects like crowd control, you have Streamer.Bot, you have the Stream Decks, you have voice mods, stream elements, all kinds of different things that you can link to it. We're not going to mess with these again, just something to give you an idea of what you can mess with. And then we're moving on to services. Services are going to be like internal things that Streamer.Bot can do, like timers. You have file tails, process watcher, file folder watcher, different things that you can do with Streamer.Bot internally that will allow you to create like databases like quote banks and stuff. So we're not going to mess with this today, but again, another video down the road. If you guys need any help with these, just reach out on the Discord. Now moving on to MIDI. MIDI is a really cool one. You can actually take a MIDI controller that you have connected to your system. Like I personally have an Akai MPK Mini that I have turned into pretty much a Stream Deck. So whenever I press these different buttons and different keys and beat pads, they actually trigger different sounds, events, and actions and stuff that I have built within Streamer.Bot. It's really cool. So if you want like a budget version of a Stream Deck that doesn't have like the LCD screens, that might be a cool option that you can actually use in place of them. The last two sections I don't really mess with, but Streamer.Bot does have a voice control option, so you can set up voice commands. So like I know some really cool streamers out there that have their stream automated so that they don't even have to use a Stream Deck. They literally just say keywords and phrases and they can switch their scenes, they can create actions, they can set up polls and predictions. It's really cool stuff. I haven't dove into this, but I wouldn't be opposed to trying. So if you guys want to see a video on how to use voice control, definitely let me know in the comments below. And then last but not least, we have the servers and clients. This is the last of the main primary sections. We still have the settings and other things to dive into. With these is going to be more advanced things like WebSocket servers, HTTP servers, custom WebSocket servers, and all that jazz. Again, more things for the advanced side, so we'll tap into that stuff on a more advanced series. This is just for the basics. So now moving on to your settings. Your settings, there isn't a whole lot that I would recommend changing because Streamer.Bot is already by default really well set up and optimized. But when you go in your general settings, a really cool one is the name of your Streamer.Bot. So you'll see that it says up in the top left corner, Streamer.Bot Streamer.Bot. You can actually change the second term of Streamer.Bot to whatever you want. So let's just change this to YouTube build. And then when you press save, you'll notice on the top left, it now says YouTube build. It says Streamer.Bot YouTube build. So it's a cool little thing that you can rename. So if you have multiple instances of Streamer.Bot like myself, you can name them and kind of sort them out so you can tell the difference between the different ones when they're running. Then you have your next section is going to be the audio. The audio is going to really depend on how you have your audio set up. A lot of people ask me about how to set this one up, but I have a very weird audio setup where I have a dual PC setup. So mine's going to be a lot different than the average user that's going to have a single PC setup. This is where you're going to choose where the sounds would be played, because whenever you set up a sound command or anything that's played like as a sound through Streamer.Bot, it's going to play as Streamer.Bot. So it will route the channel to whatever you set it to. Most of the time, you'll probably have this set to your default. But if you know what you're doing with your audio, then you would change this to whatever you control in your streaming application. I have mine set up currently to use the system default, and then you can also adjust the application volume if you want it to be louder or quieter. Now here in the performance section, I generally turn off the viewers tab because I don't personally use it. You don't get a whole lot of performance out of it, but it can help a little bit, especially if you guys are doing cross-platform streaming. And then the action history, I always keep that enabled. Action history is going to be your best friend. I'm telling you, whenever you're going through and trial and error on your actions and stuff, you're going to want to have action history. But if you can remember to go back and toggle this back on, then you can turn it off to optimize a little bit more for your performance. Then you have your log file. You just want to keep that with your Streamer.Bot files. I wouldn't mess with this, but if you want to get in the nitty-gritty of it, you can relocate them. And then you have your log level where you can dive deeper into how far you want this to log into. And that's going to be your general settings. If you click the word settings in the top left corner, you can return back to your primary settings menu. And then you have user interface. User interface, you can go through and you can customize if you want to minimize the tray, to hide splash screen. You can change your theme back to light mode if you want to get blinded like that, but I would recommend keeping your dark mode on. As you saw how bright that was, made my eye twitch a little bit. And then you can change your colors of like the comments and stuff. This is going to get into when you're starting to organize your own actions and stuff, but again, stuff that you can dive into later on. Just letting you know where it's at. Then you have your sub actions, duplicate sub action location. I like to put mine after, but some people prefer end. After is just going to basically wherever you're clicked into, it's going to put your duplicated stuff right after it. But again, stuff that you probably won't be messing with for a while now. Now you have other options like auto open chat on startup. If you start using the integrated chat that Streamer.Bot has to offer, you have auto open event feed on startup. This is another thing that they have that will show you events that happen on the platforms you have linked. And then you have disable capturing on variable viewer window. I haven't messed with the settings, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. Now you have your navigations panel, which is on the left side. You can actually eliminate stuff. So if there's options that you don't use, like for me, if I don't use the voice control, I can toggle this off. And now the voice control will no longer be on the left side once I update it. And then last but not least on this section, you're going to have your enabled sub actions and triggers. This is basically going to consolidate stuff. So if you're not streaming on Streamlabs or Polyplop, you can uncheck these. If you're not using OBS Studio, you can uncheck the ones that you're not utilizing, that you plan on, that you know for certain you're not going to need. And it'll kind of condense your list of things that you can dive through, so you don't have to get lost in the web of other things, get tangled up. And same thing would apply for like streaming applications. If you're only streaming on one platform, no need to have the other triggers and stuff in there, so you can uncheck those. I'm going to leave these alone except for the streaming apps. Now go ahead and click settings. So next spot you have is backups. You can choose where your backup folder is. It shows you what your backup status is. You can actually just force it to backup with this button right here. And then you also have the option of cloud backups, which is a paid feature. So you would have to make sure that you're supporting on Patreon to get access to this feature. And luckily they have a link right there. So if you're interested, there you go. Now let's go back to our settings. And then you have your defaults, actions, all these random things here. These are the default things that are going to happen when you create new actions, new commands, all that stuff. I personally don't mess with these, but this will be nice and convenient for you once you catch a flow through Streamer.Bot. Same thing would apply for your sub actions. Let's go back to settings and check out groups. So groups are a really good way to kind of like filter out different people, or like create like a blacklist of people that you don't want to trigger certain things in the channel, or if you want to create like special commands that are only accessible by certain select people. It's kind of like VIPs and moderators on Twitch or other platforms. You have different roles that you can actually apply to people and give them different access to different features. I do have a video out now, is for a first word system. If you're curious on how to create like automatic shoutouts, it utilizes this groups feature. But for now, we're going to leave that alone. Then you have variables. Here, I haven't messed with this part, but this is where you can mess with your variables and such for mask variable containing. Not diving into that one today, but it's there. Then you have labs. Another thing that I don't really know much about, so we're not gonna even mess with it, but if you click on it, you'll see there's some stuff going on here. We don't know what that is. We're gonna leave it alone. And last but not least, another one that we're not going to mess with, nor do I know much about, but when you click on it, you'll see there's some stuff in there. We're not gonna mess with it though. And then of course you have your about page that's gonna give you a little background of the application, how it came to be, where it came from, and who runs it and who helps support it. Really good nifty page. And then last on the panel is going to be your login. So if you created your Streamer.Bot account, make sure you get logged in, get this set up, and then if you want to down the road, start utilizing those cloud backups and potential new features that they might add down the road. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in. It'll ask you to authorize on your Discord platform. Once you do that, you'll come back to Streamer.Bot and you'll see that you are now logged in. Your account icon and ID will be there, and you should be good as far as setting up your platforms as well as signing into Streamer.Bot. The next step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be downloading OBS and we're going to be turning it into a portable application. So instead of installing it to our main drive, we're actually going to have it set up in a floating folder that we can put right next to our Streamer.Bot. You're going to want to go to obsproject.com/download. The link will be down in the description if you need a quick shortcut. And instead of downloading the installer, we're going to download the zip folder. The zip folder is going to be pretty much the portable version of OBS, but we have to do one extra step to make sure that it runs in portable mode. So we're going to download it right next to our Streamer.Bot. Once we have it downloaded, we're going to go ahead and go to that on the drive. We're going to extract this folder. Again, put it somewhere that you'll remember. I would advise keeping it side by side with your Streamer.Bot folder. That way, when you're working within those, that you have a nice little way to go in between them. The last step that you're going to need to do to get OBS set up in portable mode is you're going to have to create a text file right here. You don't have to add anything to it. You just have to name the text file and leave it blank. So we're going to right click here and we're going to do new and text document. This text document, you want to rename it to portable_mode. When you do that, you're going to want to make sure that this portable mode text file is right before the bin, data, and OBS plugins. It doesn't have to be above it in order, but it just has to be in this folder. If it's not in the prime folder, then it might not be able to detect the portable mode and it may not work correctly. So once you have this here, you'll want to go to bin, 64-bit, and then you'll see the application executable right here. This is what you're going to double click to run OBS, and it should automatically detect portable mode now that we have that text file in the folder. So go ahead and double click it. And now OBS should be asking you for a setup process. The setup process is going to be completely catered to you depending on if you're a streamer, a recording content creator, or a little bit of both. So for me, I want to optimize it for streaming, but recording is going to be my secondary. Press next. The base canvas resolution, I don't ever go for like my max display canvas. I always go a little bit smaller just because it takes up less resources. It compresses the file size a little bit and also just makes things a little bit cleaner when uploading to other platforms and faster. So for me, I always go with 1920 by 1080. I normally go with 60 here in the FPS, but it's really going to depend on how you want to approach this. This is not something that's going to be permanent. You can go back and adjust it. So I advise to go with what you know. And then if you want to go up more, then you can work your way up and kind of dial and adjust from there. But for now, I'm just going to stick with 60 just because on my base canvas is a lot less and my computer is set up to do this. So go ahead and press next. Here's where you're going to pick your platform, whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Restream, Twitter, all the jargon here. You have the show all option. You'll see there's plenty of places that you can stream to with OBS. Today, we're just going to be demonstrating how to do Twitch. So at this point, you will click connect account and it's going to prompt you to sign into your account. Once you put in your credentials and sign in, you should get to the screen where it's going to ask you if you want to prefer hardware encoding. I'd keep that checked off. And then it's going to ask about estimating bitrate and bandwidth test. It's going to suggest a bitrate, and bitrate is always going to be based on what your computer's system is capable of doing, as well as your internet service provider. So once you have these checked off, I would not mess with test enhanced broadcasting unless you know what you're doing and you genuinely want to test enhanced broadcasting. I don't, so we're just going to leave that alone. We're going to press next. It's going to do its little thing. Now this may take some time, so go grab a snack and then come back and you'll be ready to go. Now after running the automated test, it's suggesting 6,000 bitrate and all this other jargon here. We're not going to dive deep into what this stuff is, but it should be pretty good for you. We're not going to dive deep into what all this stuff is, but if you're curious, reach out on Discord. We'll be happy to help you out. So I'm going to go ahead and apply these settings that were suggested. And now you should get two different docs. You have your chat here for your Twitch, as well as your stream editor, where you can edit your information as far as your title, your go live notification, and your category. These are nice little docs that you can use for Twitch. I'm not certain what's going to pop up for other platforms, but again, like I said, we're demonstrating Twitch because that is what platform I primarily stream on. If you double click these, it'll automatically load them into little docs here that are no longer floating and now bound to the application. I like to stack them and keep them together so that they don't take up too much space, because generally I don't have the stream information up at all times. I just use that for whenever I do quick edits, and then I have my chat over top. But that's all you really need to do to have OBS set up. Now you want to make sure you start learning the ways of scenes and sources and all that jargon. We're not going to do that in this video, but again, another one down the road in the series. So if you need help, reach out on Discord and leave a comment on what you'd like to learn how to do. Now that we have OBS set up, we're going to go ahead and get it prepped for linking to Streamer.Bot. In order to do that, we're going to have to go to the top left corner where it says Tools. In that Tools section, you'll see WebSocket Server Settings. The WebSocket Server Settings is where we're going to enable. So the very first one, Enable WebSocket Server. That's going to allow it to be able to link to Streamer.Bot. Then you want to keep in mind the server port, and you also want to turn off Enable Authentication. If you want to protect it with a code, you can make a password, but I never really get this one working, and it's not that serious that you need to put a password on it because it's going to be something locally done on your system. So go ahead and uncheck this one for now and press Apply. And press apply. Once you have that applied, you can go ahead and leave this up, just minimize it for now, and we're going to go back to Streamer.Bot. On Streamer.Bot, we're going to want to go over to the Stream Apps panel on the left side. In here is where you would go to the Stream app that you're connecting. For this video, we're going to be doing OBS Studio. So click on OBS Studio and you should have a blank box here. This blank box can allow you to access different OBS studios that you link to it. We're going to be linking one by right-clicking, pressing Add, and here I'm just going to name it OBS-Portable. Then the version I have set up right now is the version v5.x. Your host should match the 127, which I think is going to be default on your system, as well as the port number, which is 4455. That should also be default. And then if you did enable the authentication, this is where you would put that password to make sure that it matches on both ends. The other things that I'm going to suggest here to change is you're going to go to auto connect on startup so that you don't have to manually connect your OBS to Streamer.Bot when you open the applications, as well as reconnect on disconnect. I always set this to about 5 to 10 seconds. And basically if one of your applications closes down, it's going to keep trying to reconnect to OBS in intervals of 5 seconds. So if your OBS crashes or freezes, you have 5 seconds to try getting it up. If it doesn't connect in that 5 seconds, it's going to try again in 5 seconds, and it just repeats the action. Once you have these dialed in, you should press OK, and it shouldn't automatically connect to your OBS because it should say status disconnected. But if you right click and you select connect at the very bottom, it should connect to your OBS, and on the side, it'll say not streaming, not recording if you're not streaming or recording. Now you should be connected as the status now. This will allow you to start doing things with OBS from Streamer.Bot. So you'll be able to control your OBS, like switching scenes, making things pop up, creating alerts, all kinds of different stuff with Streamer.Bot now that you have this connected. We're not going to be teaching all that again. It's going to be down the road, but at least you have it done and prepped and ready to go. Once we have OBS set up, now we can move on to creating actions. So we're going to go back to that main screen that I was telling you that's going to be the bread and butter where you're going to spend most of your time. On the left panel, you have your actions and queues. Go to the actions panel. Here is where you're going to do majority of your work in Streamer.Bot. This is where all the magic happens. So we're going to start with creating a website link command. So basically, if somebody does !site or !website, it's going to pull up my website link in the chat. So to start, we're going to create an action. So right click in the actions box and click add. Here, we're going to name this website. And I'm going to create a group called links. Press OK, and now we have a group called links and an action called website. The reason I created the group called links is because a lot of people generally have like Discord servers, Instagram, Facebook, all the different social media links that they would want to create. This would be a good starting point to create a group for all of your social media links if you want to create commands for each and every one of them, and also add timers, but we're going to do that down the road. For today, we're just going to be doing one website command to show you how to create an action, a trigger, and a sub action to go along with it. So now that we have our action in our group set up, make sure you're clicked into your website action here, and you're going to go over to triggers. You're going to search the word command. You'll notice the second one that says core commands command triggered. What this is showing you is a directory of how to navigate to this if you wanted to manually add it. I personally am a fan of the search bar. Shout out to Tommy for putting me onto that, but this is why I like to use it. I'm going to show you here. So if you right click to add a manual trigger here, you have to go down to add, then you have to go to core, then you go to commands, and then you go to command triggered. See how many steps you save just by searching the word command in the search bar? So I highly advise doing this, but obviously being new to Streamer.Bot, you're not going to know all the key terms and stuff. So that is going to be your manual way of searching through stuff over that way. But once you understand and know what you're looking for, start utilizing that search box just because it'll save you a lot of clicks. So again, if you go to core, commands, command triggered, this is going to bring up a command triggered box. Right now, the trigger is going to be set up for any command that's ever done is going to trigger this event that we're creating. We don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new command by clicking on the bottom left corner of this box. In here, I'm going to name this website link. We're going to make sure it's enabled, and we're going to move on to the commands box. This is where you're going to actually create the command that's going to be used in chat. This name has nothing to do with how it's going to be identified in chat. This is just a way of going back and referencing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do !website, and then we're going to hold shift, press enter, and then do !site. The reason I do this here is so that both of these commands are going to be able to trigger this exact event. So whether they do !website or !site, they will both execute the same action. We're going to put this in the group called links, and then we're going to check out options. I always like to turn off the ignore internal messages because I think that's going to filter out if you're using the internal chat integration that Streamer.Bot has. If you're typing commands in that chat window, it will not detect it if it is ignored. Now, the ignore bot account is going to ignore the bot account, the secondary account that you have set up. I always leave that on. And then you have three other options. You have a persist per user counter. This is basically something that will store a variable per user that uses the command. So if you have like fun commands that you like to kind of keep track of and see who's using that command most, then this would be a cool one to check off. Now, if you don't want to keep it per user, you have the second option, which is persist counter. Persist counter is going to be how many times this command is just used in general by chat. So if you have like a command like me, where it's an exclamation point vibe check, we like to see as a collective how many vibe checks we've done. So we keep this checked off so that we can keep track of that. But for this command, we're not really worried about how many times it's used. We just want to make sure it gets used. And then you have case sensitivity. So if you want your commands to be case sensitive, this is what you would check off for each command that you set up. Now let's go to cooldowns. Cooldowns are very simple. You have a global cooldown, which is basically chat as a collective. So if I use this command, then everybody else has to wait for the global cooldown to cool off before they can use the command next. Now you have user cooldown. This is going to be per individual user. So if I use this command, it doesn't mean anybody else will have a cooldown. That means everybody else will be able to use the command while I am on cooldown. I won't personally be able to use that command until my personal cooldown expires. So for commands like social links and stuff that people would use to get information, I generally use a global cooldown. But for like games and other things that we have set up, then I normally use user cooldown. For this one, let's go ahead and set a 10-second cooldown. So now if I use this command, nobody else can use it for 10 seconds. I put normally 10 to 15 seconds. That way it avoids people from being able to copy paste over and over again, but it also allows people to use them within a reasonable amount of time. We have sources. Sources is going to be very important for those of you that are on multiple platforms. This is where you would set up your commands to be on specific platforms. Twitch has a lot of different calls that allow you to kind of filter out the types of users and situations. For right now, it is set to enable on a Twitch message, but it will not work when you're doing a shared chat. So for those of you that do a lot of collaborations on Twitch and use the stream together function like myself, I like to have this checked off for a lot of the commands. So that way people in my friends' chats can access the commands in my chat, and we all kind of work together and make our commands work in unison. This is also where you would enable on multiple platforms. So if you want this command to work on different platforms, you can create this. Just keep in mind, you're going to want to have logic to split these up so you don't get spam across all your chats. Again, another advanced thing for a series down the road. Now, the last section that we have here for commands is going to be the permissions. It's very straightforward, very intuitive. Basically, we always have it set to allow. And what this is going to do is anybody that's in this allowed section is allowed to use it. If there's nobody listed in the allowed section, that means everybody can use it. So basically, all the available roles and groups are going to be listed below here. Right now, we don't have any groups set up like I showed you earlier, but we do have some roles from Twitch that are set up, like moderators, subscribers, and VIPs. If we wanted this command to only be able to be used by moderators, you would click on moderators and then click this little arrow that points towards allowed. And now only moderators are going to be allowed to use this command, nobody else. Once you put a role in this allowed category, it becomes allow only versus allow all. So only allow moderators use this command. If you want to open it up and you had something here already, click on it, scoot it back over to the available section, and now it's an available to all command. We're going to leave that for this one. Press OK. And now whenever you do that, it should auto-populate your new website link command in the section instead of any. Once you have that set up, press OK. And now you have a exclamation point website and exclamation point site available to use. Now we need to tell Streamer.Bot what to do when it sees that command. Because it is a trigger, we don't know what to do yet. So that's what sub actions come into play for. So for sub actions, we want to create a Twitch message that gives the user a link to the website. So again, you can search this, but we're going to show you the directory first. So right click, go to add. You're going to want to go over to whatever platform you may be on. So like I said, we're going to go over Twitch, but you can apply this information to Trovo, Kick, and YouTube. You go to YouTube, go to Trovo, and in there, you will find one that's called chat. And then within chat, you will find one that says send message to channel. When you click that, it'll pop up with a box. Now you'll see these settings on the bottom. This is going to apply to those of you that set up a bot account. If you want your bot to be the one that responds with these messages, this is where you want to make sure you have the send using bot account checked off. If you do not have a bot account currently set up, uncheck this, and that way your broadcaster account will be what replies with the message. Otherwise, it won't register. So we're going to keep the message very simple. We're just going to say, hey, go visit my website, and then we're going to put the website link. So we have the phrase, hey, go visit my website, followed by the link to my website, digivybe.xyz. Once you have this prompt set up, you should be able to press OK. And now you have a response set up for that command. So if you go back over to OBS, you should be able to go into your little chat doc that you had set up and do !site. And now you'll see that we have a response showing, hey, go visit my website. And then it has a link to the website. You click on that, it should pop up with a link and go to wherever you direct them. That will help determine that you are properly connected to OBS as well as your platform being Twitch, because your OBS doc is working on top of the response from the bot is working. So that's Streamer.Bot, and you are pretty much buttoned up and ready to go. That is the essentials to the flow in Streamer.Bot. You want to start with creating an action, then you have your set of triggers, and then you have your sub actions to follow in response to those triggers. That is the simple flow that Streamer.Bot has. If you need to go back and test it, we can go to action history and we can see that the website action happened. So if we double click on this, it's going to show all the variables that had anything to do with what we just did. So a really cool one is the user variable. If we wanted to say, hey, and that user that used the command, we would right click on user, copy variable name, close this, and let's go back to our action. In the sub action, let's double click on our message, right? And right after hey, let's put the @, then do %, then paste, and then %. Now you're probably wondering, what the heck does this mean? This is going to put a little @ at the beginning. And then in these little % signs is indicating to Streamer.Bot, hey, this is a variable. This is something that you have stored somewhere. Go reference this and put it here. So we saw that the variable that we had stored was my username. So it should put my username here. So let's check this out. Press OK and go back to OBS, do !site. And now it should say, hey, at DigiVybe, go visit my website. So now instead of it just saying, hey, it's showing who used the command. It's a really cool thing that you'll be able to take and run with. But for now, this is just the basics. If you have any questions or ideas that you want to manifest that we haven't already created videos for, visit the Discord like I've been saying. But that should be everything you need to know to just get started. Obviously, this is not going to be everything you need to know for Streamer.Bot because I don't even know everything and I've been using it for many years. So hopefully this was very helpful. If it was, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that YouTube makes us say. And until next time, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace!